Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present Hear Your Faith, a brand new audio subscription service that features a growing collection of uplifting Catholic audio choruses, talks, and other exclusive content to help you grow deeper in your faith and knowledge of Catholicism. Subscribe today at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry. Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I'm Bill Snyder, and as always, I'm joined by my friend Andy Santis. We are live here on Podbean and on YouTube, and also we are so excited you have joined us for today's show. So welcome in, Ann, and thank you so much for being with me as my co-host, as always, each and every episode.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Yes,
happy morning.
Yes, happy morning. Yeah, this is our morning show this week, so we're glad you got up and are here to help sow hope into broken hearts. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We're glad that you've joined us. So you know, I'm very excited again today because we have two wonderful guests joining us this morning, right?
Yes, we do. I am so excited about this one with my friends John Riciutti and Jill Frechie. They are the producers and creators of the documentary film Kensington in Crisis. And for those who are not from the greater Philadelphia area, Kensington is an area of Philadelphia that has experienced a massive drug problem in the last several years. And they made a documentary about the opioid crisis, and which will spur all of us to think more about that and do what we can as members of community to help to put an end to the drug crisis. So, John and Jill, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege.
Thank you. So I guess it was a few months back, maybe a little bit more than that. My husband and I went out to Radnor to watch Kensington in Crisis. And you both did such a fabulous job with it. And I know that it was a very challenging project for you, but you both did it. So I thank you both for bringing that awareness to the public about what is happening. Could you tell us a little bit about the making of that film and what did you learn about what's happening in Kensington?
Well, the project was really the brainchild of Jill's. Jill was contracted by a missionary group in Philadelphia on Kensington Avenue, and the initiative of the group is to feed children of some of the suffering there on Thursday nights. So we went up there, and it was October 2018, and we started. Jill was so moved by what she saw there. She said, "We have to do something to bring this to people's attention." And that was the initiative for us to do that. And then, of course, through our own sources, we contacted a lot of people we know, and they said, "Well, you need to talk to this person. You need to talk to this person." And we did that. They were Philadelphia advocates for crimes victims. We talked to the mayor of Philadelphia, the chief of police of SEPTA. So we had a lot of help in making this documentary, and it was made to educate and inform people of this terrible epidemic. Eventually, coronavirus will go away, but opiates is still victimizing people endlessly. And I thank Jill Frechie for giving me the opportunity to work with her. And again, this was her genius to push this project forward.
It really was genius, Jill and John. Thank you. It was difficult for me to watch, I must say. I mean, how long? I think it was about 53 minutes, was it? Yeah, I remember that number, 53, somewhere around that time frame. And it really, it sunk into my heart what is happening there. And I know that one of you said that it's almost like a third world country there, with the way that people are living with this drug problem on the streets, so many homeless. Can you talk a little bit more about that piece? What you learned about what's happening?
Well, when we first went to Kensington, we were really surprised at the demographics of the people that we saw slumped over, overdosing, laying in the streets, defecating, begging for money. And what really struck us was it was primarily a young white disease. And we just kept saying, why? Why is this happening? And that really took us down a rabbit hole of learning that, a lot of people are prescribed to a medication, become addicted, and then they can't get out of this hole that they've dug for themselves, or other people have dug for them. And basically, it's really not their fault. And that's what we came away with, thinking that it's not really their fault. They're victims of either, some of them are victims of abuse from their parents, abuse from their homes, but many of them are just victims of just a bad society and a bad, misinformed pharmacology and overuse of these opioids, thinking that they were not addictive. So, and it's, it doesn't seem to be getting any better. The overdose death dropped 100 people from 2017 to 2018, from 1,200 to 1,100. The overdose deaths is 2 to 3 times what the death and homicides are in Philadelphia. So overdose in Philadelphia is a huge problem. And we just don't, the mayor and the officials just don't seem to know how to get themselves out of this crisis.
You mentioned that the film was uncomfortable to watch. That was part of the purpose of it. Some of the initiative was to get the viewer to sit up and pay attention. It wasn't made to be sugar-coated. However, it was made to give hope. It was made also to say that there are opportunities, there are efforts being made to help the suffering along the way. There are groups that are doing things. St. Francis House, The Last Stop. Those are groups that Kensington Storefront that are there to do whatever they can to help the community. When you saw the film and you saw that there was an attorney in there, a young attorney, and he got addicted to drugs because he had a wrestling scholarship to a Division I school. And the school said, if you can't wrestle, he had a rotary cuff injury. And they said, if you can't wrestle, you lose your scholarship. So he started using drugs. I mean, this kid rehabilitated himself, and he has a very good law practice in Philadelphia where he helps other professionals. That's what we wanted to do. We just didn't want to just shock people. We wanted, yes, there is shock to it. There's to the appearance of it. And Kensington has not reached a third world level yet. And what concerns Jill and I is once this coronavirus subsides, the money that the city of Philadelphia lost that would have possibly gone to more services for Kensington, the money's not going to be there. So,
oh wow, yeah, never thought of that one, but
yeah,
that's big.
The Kensington attracts people from all over the country. You heard the one comment by the one person interviewed there, and he was a former drug dealer that we interviewed, and he said, remember the comment he makes, which it hits home. These aren't your kids. These aren't our kids. They're your kids. So they're kids coming from all over, from Wisconsin, from Florida, from Virginia, from California.
They're coming from all over the country to Philadelphia.
Yes. because of the drugs being the cheapest and the best. And Philadelphia doesn't have enough of a police force to control all that. So,
and there is a drug called Narcan that is helping overdose, which, believe it or not, the city has given out more than 78,000 doses of, probably more than that, but over 78,000 since 2017, and has trained more than 2,000 people to use it. And if you live in Philadelphia, they're recommending that you carry it. But if what's going on with the coronavirus could have been put towards overdoses and the use of fentanyl, and literally when you go to Kensington early in the morning, there are people walking around saying free samples, free samples.
You're kidding.
Get you addicted to the drug. The high will last all day, and there's nothing, they say, like the first high. So after that, you have people will chase that high for the rest of their lives, try to get that high again. So once you could take one dose, one free sample,
scary.
and one bad day, and if you live in Kensington, if you're in that environment, you're not getting out of it.
Thank you for the awareness. I mean, you both know this is the Sowing Hope podcast. I mean, this podcast is all about instilling hope in broken hearts. And that's what it says at the beginning of the this program. We are a Catholic program through Patchwork Heart Ministry, and Bill Snyder, who's with us. Hi, Bill.
Hey, it's great to talk to you guys this morning. It's wonderful.
And it's an honor for us to talk to you about this topic, because, prayer and an awareness of what's really happening with people who are suffering out there is so important for us to know. And for people who are listening, who are people of faith, I'm calling on you. We're calling on you to pray for what you're hearing about this drug crisis. And it's not stopping just because of the pandemic, correct, John and Jill? I mean, it's still happening. It's probably just as bad as it was before.
Jill and I were up there recently, and actually, we're both proud to say that we routinely go up there and bring food to the Last Stop, which is an AA-NA club. And one of the people that was a big supporter of ours was a man named Eddie Z. Eddie Z started the AA-NA club, and he's helped so many people. He's an incredible human being. He actually is a story unto himself. And Jill and I, we bring coats, we bring anything we can round up, we bring food. We do it routinely to help people. And the events changed my life as far as the way I think, because one of the things that Jill and I wanted to do was educate people. There's a mentality amongst a lot of people that is choice. Well, they want to get high. They want to do drugs. Nah, there's veterans that served in our country that are on those streets. There are nurses that were in the military that are on those streets, that are giving themselves away for what they call a date. Date will get them $5. I had an incident where a girl asked me, could I loan her 13 cents? I said, what do you need 13 cents for? She said, well, I don't have $5. She has 13 cents. True story. I knew what she needed the $5 for, so she can go buy a bag of heroin. I mean, that's really a tragedy. It's a shame. And I don't know how they got there, but we're all God's children. We're all here. And Jill and I, especially because we feel so blessed of having had this opportunity to make this film. And Jill was very, very giving of so much in making of this film, so much of her time, so much of her effort, took time away from her teaching profession to do a lot of the things that we did to accomplish this. And we got a lot of response for it. A lot of folks want us to show it in in various venues. And I know, Ann, you had to leave because I know you live a distance away from Radnor. But after we had a Q&A and we had a panel, no one left for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and we stayed for a good part of that, and it was amazing. All the wonderful, like as you said, people who are trying to do some good things to help people who are suffering from this addiction. So I'm glad that that came to the forefront. And you know, I just want to congratulate you for doing this work because, you know, as I said a minute or two ago, we are a community here of faith. It is a Catholic podcast. Part of our catechesis, we call it, right, is praying for others, recognizing the suffering of the world. You know, we can't just know our faith, we have to live it. We have to care about what's going on in the world around us. Right, Bill? I mean,
Oh,
I know you
yeah.
have probably something to say on that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what you guys have spotlighted is really really an important thing that often doesn't get spotlighted in our society. I think, you know, shining a light. There's I guess there's a line out there that says, sunlight is the best disinfectant, and there's something that is so important about being able to spotlight Uh, things out there and put a little bit of sunlight on a problem that it really helps disinfect the society of some of its ills. And so I really applaud you all for being able to create something that just spotlights an uncomfortable topic. I mean, this is a uncomfortable. I mean, nobody wants to sit around and probably talk about or see this, but it's important. And it's not the latest Trolls World Tour movie. Nobody's going to be signing up like that to go see it on demand. But the idea is that this is an important film that we have to be able to recognize and then also show and talk about, as you just mentioned, having a discussion about this afterward. And it lasting for as much as time as it did, an hour and a half. This is proof that this is working and that it's beginning to make a difference and draw awareness to it, and then not only the awareness but the action that follows it. The big question that I have for you guys is is how did you get into making the film? Like, what was the genesis project behind it? I mean, obviously, Jill, you came up with the idea, but have you guys been in filmmaking for a while? What is kind of the story behind the making of it?
Well, John and I were introduced when we both were volunteers for Radnor Studio 21, which is public access television channel in Radnor. I was working for Lower Merion and Narberth Public Access Television, and we joined forces in many projects. We've interviewed veterans and community interest people all through nonprofit. And this project, by the way, was forward funded by a foundation, the John Powell Foundation. And we basically have been volunteering our time and services to communicating to the public about the arts and culture. But when we saw this, which was a far cry from arts and culture, we said, this is so much more important. I mean, look, nobody knows about this, what's going on here. And it just seemed to be ignored. And there are so many good people, everybody that we asked for an interview, except one person, who was the DA of Philadelphia.
Yeah, the DA of Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, turned us down for an interview.
But everybody else said yes. We interviewed them. John and I volunteered our time and services and our equipment, and everybody really wanted to help and just didn't know how to help. Even the mayor of Philadelphia was extremely concerned and extremely aware of the problem. But how much it takes so much money and so many resources that I think just getting more people aware, we feel like we're going to do good. Our goal originally was to save one life. That's changed to save many lives. A lot of people that came to that showing had children that they either lost or lost touch with. And I say lost touch with because there are many, many families, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children of those addicted that go to Kensington in search of their loved ones every week. But it's just sad. But you asked a question about the pandemic. Eddie Z said he didn't see a drop in the people. So
wow. So they're still outside. I mean, it says like close knit and everything as it was before. There's no social distancing or anything like that.
Hundreds of people congregating, shooting up on the streets. Not social distancing. Some are wearing masks. Most aren't. We see no change. But you got to remember, these are young people that have survived living on the streets. So their immune system, may be pretty good.
We on several occasions have taken people there who asked us, would you show us Kensington, people who were involved in our project? And we took them to Kensington and they were aghast, slack-jawed, when they saw the circumstances. In fact, as recently as two Saturdays ago, we were up there with someone and he said, I'm stunned. I don't see anybody here over 40 years old. And I can tell you firsthand, I saw kids there, 14, 15, 16.
Oh my goodness.
That are addicted. And it's tragic that we can't do more for them. And it's tragic on how they got there. And Jill and I know their stories. They would tell us, well, how did you get addicted? You can't make this stuff up on how with the things that they tell you.
It's not like the heroin of yesterday. There's fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid, which is fatal if it's taken more than a grain of salt is the dose that they give. So it's 1,000 times more potent than heroin, 1,000. So you use a lot, you have to use a very small amount. Now, if someone that's mixing it with heroin doesn't know what they're doing, or mixing it with something else, and they're yelling free samples on the street and someone takes that, they're going to die immediately. And that's what the experts are saying. There's fentanyl on the street. You can't, it's so strong. You just have to stay away from it. So if we can prevent people from trying it, to going there, to saying, look, this is a deadly thing you could be doing, maybe that would help.
And I know that as a practicing Catholic myself, the Catholic Church comes under a lot of criticisms for a lot of things. And I'm not a lawyer or a judge to say, well, yeah, that's right, that's wrong. But in my personal experience of working on this project for 13 months, I came across several Catholic priests who roam those streets. And I came across some Franciscans at Christmas time who were in robes and sandals, washing people's feet and doing things that, why isn't the news showing that? Oh, they're only showing this.
Amen.
Well, how about and if I didn't.
Thank you for saying this, John. It's so important for people to hear this.
Okay. I understand that there's priests that were responsible for criminal activity. I understand that, but I personally saw, not somebody told me, hey, John, no, I witnessed it. In fact, I bought lunch for the 3 Franciscans with a woman who Jill and I know, her name is Leslie Holt, who runs the Radar Foundation, and she lost a very beautiful daughter to overdose, and she was up there distributing clothes, and we bought these 3 Franciscan monks food. So I get the criticisms, but let's call them as we see them. There's a lot of good stuff being done by priests up there. There's a priest that works that's very, very helpful in the Camden side and the Philadelphia side of the Last Stop, run by Eddie Z. Eddie Z incidentally lives under a train trestle. That's his home.
Oh my.
It's fascinating. And does Eddie goes to church every day. He's in our film. He goes to church every day, 9:30 mass on Lehigh Avenue, and he takes a group of people with him that he tries to help. So I get the bad things that some people are responsible for, but point out the good things too.
Yeah,
It means a great deal to bring that up. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that there's that type of social witness going on by our clergy, and that is something that is so important to spotlight. And I applaud you for talking about that. I think in today's world, especially right now in this virus, we have to point out those people who are reaching out and doing great work, doing wonderful work and sacrificing of themselves. A lot of this is sacrifice. How else do you solve a problem like this? It almost doesn't come down to the dollars and cents and the politicians. It comes down to those people out there on the streets sacrificing of themselves and helping get those people off the streets. And that is such a hard thing to do. And I hope that this film will spotlight and move some people into sacrificial action. And the other thing that you guys were talking about earlier is that the people are coming from all over the country to one area of Philadelphia, right? One area, the Philadelphia area, to get a fix. I mean, that is a big problem, for not only Philadelphia, but for our country.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, I would recommend, people who are listening, if you haven't seen the film yet, it's called Kensington in Crisis. Now, John and Jill, maybe you can tell people if they would like to see your film, how can they do that? And how can they support you? Because I know that for you to continue doing the great work that you're doing, you could use their partnering with you financially too. So maybe you could tell us on both ends how they can support you.
Well, we have a website, mainlinetv.org, and we're going to be posting upcoming screenings. Right now, everything's obviously on hold, but we will be posting screenings, and there's a place on there on how to donate if you'd like to. And it is through donations that we have been able to make this film. And talking about somebody that we brought down there, recently filming a new project, the making of a wise guy. John calls it the making of a wise guy, and I call it the making of a mobster. So
okay, yeah, let's hear about that. So this is your new project, right? This is your new project.
We had our protagonist, who is named George Martirano, who was wrongfully sentenced to life in prison. Now, life in prison without parole means you die in prison. He was about 35 years old when he went in, and he was tried for and sentenced for marijuana trafficking. But why he got life without parole is a story that we need to figure out. He spent 32 years in prison until he finally was released. He was in his prison uniform when we were filming him recently, and we said, we need to drop food off in Kensington. You're going to come with us, and we want to, show you Kensington and hear what you have to say. We want to hear your comments. We brought him to Kensington. Now, this is a guy who spent time in the worst prisons in America, and he was slapjawed. He could not believe it. He actually filmed a 1-minute little speech to send to the mayor. He just couldn't believe what he saw.
Yeah, I'll send you the clip.
Yes, please do.
That he sent to the mayor, because he was, like, as Jill said, startled.
And he was in prison all those years, and for him it was still shocking beyond belief.
We got out of the car with our masks on, and he just couldn't believe it. And he met Eddie Z, and we took him to the last stop. And it was unbelievable. And his story, which we feel is also important, and that is prison reform,
Right.
and being set. What did he say? Set up?
Framed.
Framed.
He was framed.
A framed sentence is the hardest to beat, because nobody will want to admit, the officials won't want to admit to something they did wrong. But we believe that he was wrongfully kept in prison. He should have gotten maybe 10 years, but he got 32 years.
A long time.
He got out was because of something that Obama had initiated, which was to get out. He was a
First-time nonviolent offender.
He was a nonviolent offender. There were people that chopped people's head off that got out before him.
Oh my goodness.
He never hurt a soul. He never hurt anybody.
Yeah, he actually again, I don't want to sound like I'm patronizing, but he did a lot working with the Catholic Church in the prisons.
Did he?
Himself. And he's a fascinating story. That's all I can say about him. But while he was in prison, he always worked with the priests to help get people, whatever their spiritual beliefs were, whether they were Jewish, whether they were Muslim, he worked with them. And he said that, the prisons now, one of the questions we asked him was, well, in the prison system, from the time you went in to what is it now? Well, now there are more and more Latinos in there. There's more gang violence. There's gang riots all the time. We don't hear about any of these things.
Mm-mm.
And he wants to bring that to people's attention. His father was Long John Martirano, so that should give you a clue there. But he is not that person, and he is all into helping. And so, again, we as practicing Catholics don't hear about the things that go on where there are priests. He said there were priests that went to the prisons every day and administered. Mm-hmm. No matter what the person's faith was, or they had no faith, they were administering to them. So, let's call them as we see them. Yeah.
Wow, this is great to hear, and especially with our audience here, we have lots of different people, but many people of faith. When you hear the good things that clergy and people of faith are doing to help others in the prison systems, on the streets. And John and Jill, I just, again, thank you so much for what you're doing with the project of Kensington in Crisis and this new one. Repeat the title of your new project again so people can check that out.
Well, I call it The Making of a Wise Guy. And
okay.
And then Jill calls it The Making of a Mobster. But it's really the George Martirano story. So how that certainly will be that for sure somewhere. But I call it a wise guy because one of the people we're working with is a very famous author, and one of his books was about wise guys, and I think that's it's a neat term anyway. It's catchy, but it's more about George evolving into what he became as a good human being. Because I will tell you, he helps people all the time at his own expense. For a guy who was in prison, he helps a lot of people to this day. Gives people hope. He's again a fascinating person. He's a story unto himself. And Jill and I are blessed. Jill and I are really blessed because we have so many gifts that we've been given, and the opportunities to bring enlightening stories to people.
Yeah.
Kensington wasn't a slick story. Kensington in Crisis has a lot of powerful comments in them, and you saw the film, and you saw where the police chief says there are more people dying of shooting up than being shot. And Jill and I have become so accustomed to life in Kensington because we spend so much time there, day and night, 4 or 5 days a week, that every time we hear now on the news, and you watch the local news, Ann, you hear about a shooting in Kensington, it's a drug deal. We know right away. Jill and I have actually had to step out of the way because we saw the police chasing people down the street and knew there was going to be gunfire to follow. So,
wow.
There's a lot of serious things that go on in Kensington. I know
But I
bounce
do
all
have
over.
to say that some people came up to us and said, "Oh, well, should we go down there or should we drive through?" We would not recommend that. It took months of canvassing the street in our car, making friends before we even got out of the car to walk the streets. Now, if you're just going to the car to go to the prevention point and want to make a donation, that's fine. But I wouldn't recommend just driving down the street. It's scary.
Yeah, or
if you get stuck at a red light, and where are you going to go? There's nowhere to go. It's a very small area. The L is constantly, going every 7 minutes. You hear the noises, you see the problem. It's overwhelming. So yes, go make a donation, go right out. That's all I can tell you. Or contact us and we'll pick up donations, which we often do, and bring them down there for you. If they don't know you, they will feel threatened.
Yeah.
And if you're a drug dealer, they're not friendly.
Yeah,
drug dealers aren't friendly. And the people that are doing the drugs are very sensitive. So you don't want to treat them poorly or walk by. And if they feel that you're being mean or negative, that's not good either.
Yeah, don't go there for a thrill or you think it's exciting or you want to do something really neat. That's not that's not what you do.
No.
One time I actually observed a drug deal being made, and I had the camera. We used a very small camera for a lot of the shots, and I had the camera down at hip height. And the person doing the deal turned and looked at me and pulled his jacket back, and I could see the gun in his belt. So I quickly turned around and walked away. I was very lucky.
We've had people when we were filming pull their pants down. I mean, it's really, they're doing things, they're not in their right mind. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't like when you take pictures. Some of them want you to take their picture, but if they don't, you want to put your camera away. You don't want to do anything.
But I want to emphasize too, there's a lot of people doing good things there. There's an art gallery run. We met a fabulous artist. His name is Ben, has a master's degree in fine arts from, I think, NYU. And he unfortunately became addicted, and his family treated him with hard love and actually evicted him from the house. He's actor, good looking. And he runs an art gallery down there called the Blockchain Gallery. And there's some beautiful artwork that some of the unfortunates or the suffering bring in that they sell there. And he does what he can. He gives art lessons to them. He's a wonderful artist, well-spoken, intelligent, good-looking guy. And he's been clean for a year. Jill and I went to his 1-year ceremony at the last stop, where they had a cake and speeches and all those things. People do work very hard to support themselves. I met a Vietnam veteran up there who was a paratrooper. He himself, again, there's so many people trying to do good things for people, and including the city of Philadelphia, and including the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. They're out there doing, the University of Pennsylvania, doing things for people there, trying to bring hope, trying to do really good things. So there's
one of the
we hope that things get better.
The one commitment I think that everyone has in common, and that is to keep the children that live in Kensington away from the problem.
Oh, yes.
So that's a whole other issue, because they see it. They see it every day walking. If they take the L, they get off the L, they see the problem. So the police were talking about creating new ways for them to get to and from school so they wouldn't see the problem. And little things like that, that the community can do. Everything matters. Everything could help.
That's right. Yeah. Every little bit. I mean, I'm wondering, for people who are listening and they may be thinking, wow, what can I do? First of all, I want to make a shout out to you who are listening. Please pray. Pray for this drug epidemic. Pray for the people in Kensington. Pray for John and Jill and the great work that they're doing, and the clergy and all the community officials, that they can come together to help to solve this problem. It's a big problem. I mean,
Amen.
so what can people do who might be listening? I mean, obviously they can help support you through mainline TV, and by, donating to your project that you've already done, but that you want to get the word out there more so that people can be educated about this crisis. What else can they do?
Well, Prevention Point is a very large organization. It's in a church. It's on Kensington Avenue. They give out free Narcan. They give out free needles. They have a needle exchange program. The people in Kensington, some of the residents are against Prevention Point, but most people are for Prevention Point, and that is because they have reduced AIDS. They have reduced viruses from spreading. They've instilled. They give people food. They give people a place to go in the morning to night. They give services, find people jobs. So there's a lot of good that they are doing. Some of the residents in Kensington would just like the problem to just go away altogether. Obviously, they want their neighborhood back and they want it to be safe and clean. But I don't know, how soon and where can people go? Like you're moving them from Kensington to where? So we need to solve the problem of each person and take each individual as an individual. So maybe we can solve the problem. There's as many as 800 homeless people living in Kensington, just wandering in the street,
Wow.
living in old buildings and things. So, but if we could take those 800 and somehow find them homes, long-term housing, which is also a problem, that would help. So any Prevention Point donation you would make would go to a good cause.
Yeah.
But I did want to say one thing about George Materano, which we failed to mention, was when he left prison, somehow now it's been 4 or 5 years, he now runs a CBD store.
Oh, does he? Okay.
So he was tried for trafficking marijuana. Now he doesn't sell marijuana, but it's CBD.
CBD.
It's 0.01 THC. Which I've been educated to learn. So it's just and CBD does so much good for people. So that's really great. And if you want to learn more about George, he wrote a book called Pain Grows a Platinum Rose. And in that story, it talks about it's a fiction story, but it's sort of based on his life, in my opinion. And basically it tells about a kid who was wrongfully imprisoned. And the reason he was imprisoned is because he didn't want to tell about this very bad gang, because he knew that if he told the truth about the gang, he would get in trouble and they would hurt his family. So he ended up doing many, many, many years in prison, wrongfully in his fictitious book. And then the owner of the saloon always maintained his friendship with the kid that was in prison. So that book, Pain Grows a Platinum Rose, Pain Grows a Platinum Rose, is a very good book to learn. Or visit him at the Hip Hemp Cafe in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And the Hip Hemp Cafe. Okay.
617 South 7th Street. 617 South 7th Street. One of the things, Jill and I get lots of emails about Kensington. In fact, there's a Catholic church, large Catholic church run by Pastor DeGrassa in Northeast Philadelphia, who's asked us to show the film for the community, which includes their Jewish community and the Muslim community. And unfortunately, we were shortchanged by the coronavirus. But Jill and I are anxious to get back into showing the film again because we realize it's important. In fact, Montgomery County Community College again has asked us, so has Radnor. Andrea DeFabio at the Lansdowne vinyl revival shop has asked us to show it in her theater. But one of the things that Jill and I received lots of emails about, and it's it's complimentary, but we don't have the energy for this to do a part two. Jill and I have spoken about it, and she said we're not up for it. It's just very, very painful. We would like to get the message out with the Kensington in Crisis project, and we'd like to see people help other people with the epidemic, and help us with other projects that we want to pursue. But if they contact us, I'm on social media. So you just look up John Ricciutti, Ricciutti, and you can find me and you can message me. And, I communicate everything with Jill. She is the boss.
I know you said that before.
Yeah. I said it on your
Jill's
show.
the boss. Yeah.
Often I hear Jill's a great teacher. Once a person's a teacher, it's there all the time. It's John.
Yeah.
John,
I get that.
Tell you, John. So,
Oh, you're doing, as you were speaking about a part two, what comes into my head, and I don't know if the Holy Spirit is speaking to me, but maybe a focus more on the solution. Maybe you don't need to go back down and do as much footage as you did in the heart of Kensington, but maybe interviews with the people who are already helping, that to get more awareness so that other people can help out and be a part of the solution instead of the problem, right? Yeah. Because John, one of the things you said when I went out that night to Radnor was that these are our kids. These are not, I'm sure there's some from that neighborhood, but they're coming from suburban Philadelphia and beyond. You said something like they're our kids, that are there partaking in this crisis. So it's affecting everybody. I know it was a year ago or so, I had 3 people that I knew, 2 from high school and another friend of mine, who all lost people to the epidemic. Mm-hmm. And it was within a year's time. It was just so sad. So I'm still praying for all of those people, and everything I've seen on social media, when, you see it all the time that somebody's friend or relative had an overdose. So yeah, well, it affects all of us.
Jill pointed out that a lot of the how they got there for a lot of the kids. But when we were at Montgomery County Community College and Radnor, the families that were there, they were from good families. I'm sure the people that you probably could be a character witness for the types of parents that they were.
Oh yeah,
as they were growing up as children, and we witnessed the same thing. I mean, we didn't put on or put in the film the moms and that we interviewed. We didn't put them in that film, and these are people that were good parents, good loving parents, and there was no explanation of how their child just became addicted and they lost that child. And it's very, very sad, and you don't know what to say. You're startling yourself. Joan and I are startled.
Oh yeah. I mean, even sometimes there was the one person who came to the Radnor meeting who said something about her son was involved in athletics in high school, was a great kid, good grades, nice friends, but then, got involved with athletics, and maybe one kid on the team or something introduced him to trying drugs one time, and there he was hooked. Yeah. Wasn't it something like that? I mean, you probably remember that story.
You hear that story a lot, one bad night, or there's no rhyme or reason. It's every walk of life, every age, every nationality, every
religion. Yeah,
there are statistics that point to in Kensington, I don't know all over the world, that it's more white people and an age group, I think, of 22 to 44. But there's no rhyme or reason. They're good people, and they just went down a bad path for some reason, and they got addicted, and it's hard to become unaddicted to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never. They'd be saying, when they introduce themselves, I'm an addict. Go to an NA meeting, I'm an addict. And it's not always heroin. There's people down there shooting up or smoking
K2.
K2,
Yeah, which is
cocaine.
Yeah. K2 is a drug that they concoct that makes them hallucinate. You know, a person on heroin will just be mummified, but or it'll be a zombie, as they say. But a person that smokes K2 who becomes hallucinogenic.
And they're also very violent. If you see, it's scary. You'll see videos. Oh, we saw it in person, but you'll see pictures or videos, and they become completely violent, and they'll just run down the street and hit people, and if the police try to arrest them or try to calm them down, they'll hit them, and it looks like they're hitting them because they want to. But it's really the drug that's making them do very erratic things, and even the Narcan won't take them off the K2 high. So if you take Narcan, you give Narcan, it takes away the heroin, but then they become extremely violent, according to the police that we interviewed.
There's a woman that we know that she took Jill and I by the hand and took us around. Her name is Roz Pichardo, a Latino, obviously. She lost a brother to murder, a sister who took her own life after she had been, I think, a user herself. And
I don't think so. She was just depressed.
She just took her life. And I think her father was also a victim. And she has saved over 300 people the last time I talked to her using Narcan. She introduced Jill and I to Narcan. In fact, Jill and I learned how to use Narcan and carried Narcan with us routinely as we went around and filmed.
Yeah. And basically, Narcan is it looks like something you would use to spray up your nose. Like, you just take off the cap, you push it, and you administer to the person's right up their nose. You wait 5 minutes for it to take effects. Things that you need to be trained on is you have to wear gloves. Now, we saw her actually put a piece of plastic on someone's face with a little hole in it so she could give them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and she pressed on their heart. So that's another story. But the Narcan is very, very simple to use, and it really does save lives.
We actually filmed a real overdose that we just came upon, and it was decided by our group with our film editor, with Jill has a associate professor she deals with, and he advised us not to put it into film because it was too dramatic, and it was so vivid that it looked staged.
Oh,
It was for real, and we didn't use it. But one of the things I think that we should mention is, you know, that there's a lot of political discussion nationally and internationally about safe injection sites. And I
have heard this, yes.
We didn't want this discussion to be concluded without us speaking about that.
Yes, please.
I've spoken to some priests because I'm a Catholic, and you know, but I'll be happy to speak with anyone about it. And there's some ethical issues, and they're well founded, and there's some legal issues surrounding a safe injection site. And we've spoken. There's people that Jill and I interviewed that live in Kensington. So, well, yeah, we should have them, and no, we shouldn't. And the arguments, the police will say, well, are you allowing someone to come in there to inject themselves and then get in their car and drive? And then what happens then? The drug dealer that we interviewed says, well, if I'm going to deal drugs, I'm going to stand on the corner and sell my drugs there. I don't have to go far. So there's that side of it. And then, of course, the ethical side of it is, and I don't care what your religion is, once you allow someone to inject themselves, you're giving them permission to kill themselves.
Yeah.
So you have all these issues, and respectfully to Krasner and to Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General, that they're opposed to it, and I think they are. I certainly know the Attorney General of the United States is. So there's all these issues, and people say, well, they work. Well, those statistics are skewed. It's a really, really difficult thing. We actually know someone. Many parents do this. They'll take their children to get the drugs because they don't want them buying them on the street. And I actually know someone who took their child to get the drugs, and the child overdosed.
Oh my goodness.
This is an incredible. There's no depth to trying to understand this issue. No depth. It's prayer. It's strength. It's asking God to give you strength every day to do this, to so that you don't or your family doesn't become addicted.
Well, as I said earlier in the podcast, we're a community of faith here at Sowing Hope Podcast. I'll call out to you who are listening to this podcast. Part of our catechesis is outreach to the marginalized. So important. It's so important for others, but it's also important for our own salvation, right, Bill?
Amen.
I mean,
yeah.
We need
so
to do
important.
that. And as Catholics, I don't know about you, Bill, but I don't think I hear about that enough, about reaching out to those who are marginalized.
No, we honestly, we don't. And I was remembering a homily I heard maybe a couple months ago in all of this, and just what you said here. A couple of months ago, it was at a church, and this priest was talking about our salvation, and there are a few times in the Bible where Christ talks about hell specifically, and in almost every one of those instances, it's about what we did not do versus what we did. And he was using the gospel passage of the sheep and the goats, talking about that, and saying, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, visiting the imprisoned, all of those things. They were the sins of omission, not the sins of commission, and ignoring a problem like this in our society, it can be a sin of omission. So I certainly appreciate Jill's taking this on and bringing it to John and saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to spotlight this, because that is something that is going to, once it's in digital media, we say, once it's in digital media, it's preserved forever. It can be found wherever. Mm-hmm. And so that is such an important thing to be able to spotlight and bring to the forefront. I want to ask, we have about 3 minutes before we close. And so I want to ask you guys, is the film available to view, out there? Is it available to stream? Can people watch this from anywhere? How do we get this film out to people? Because I think it's such an important thing to be able to bring to a wide audience, not just the area of Philadelphia.
Well, we are working on a larger distribution, but right now we feel that we want to show the film through screenings and then give people a chance to talk about it. So we have panels set up with professionals to talk about the problem. So that's where we're concentrating it on right now. And then later on in the year, we should have news of larger distribution. But we don't just want to put it out there because it's too strong, mm-hmm. and it's not really designed for young people under 18 to see.
Of course.
So we want to just control how people are presented the information and then how they absorb it.
Sure, absolutely. No, definitely understand. And is there a website or something that people can go to find out more information about it?
Yeah, mainlinetv.org, because we are a nonprofit. You can get more information. I just want to say one thing about safe houses, and it's really true about many problems in the world, and that is, not in my backyard. So people will say, yes, I'm for safe houses, but then where do you put them anyway? So nobody wants it in their backyard because there is loitering outside of Prevention Point. That's what they're afraid of in Philadelphia with a safe house. So that's the challenge. Even if we had safe houses, even if we have places for people to go, homeless shelters, long-term housing, where?
Yeah. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bill, I would love to have them come back again.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
We have so much more to talk about.
Yeah, definitely with the new film too. As you guys release that one, for sure, it'd be great to have you back on. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's this opportunity to talk about a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come back again. Thank you. Great work. Good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amen. As you know,
'Cause
as
we're looking at each other on video, even though this is a podcast.
That's right. That's right. Real quick before we go, too, folks, I just want to mention that, Anne, you have a new TV show beginning, right? You've got a brand new TV show. Why don't you just go ahead and tell people briefly about that?
I'm so excited. So it's called Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. It's going to be aired on Fiat Ministry Network, on Facebook and YouTube, as well as on Patchwork Radio with Bill Snyder. It's going to be every Friday night, 8:30 to 9:30. It's a live show. I'm going to have guests on just like this, John and Jill. You have to come and be a guest on this Journeys in Faith. So just keep an eye on my Facebook page, but you can also go to Journeys in Faith on Facebook, Instagram, and also on LinkedIn and Twitter. So thank you, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, we want everybody to also, Fiat Ministry Network is our, awesome partner in ministry. They're doing amazing work. So we want you to check them out. And we also would love it if you would head over. We do a lot of these great free episodes for people. We also have a premium content subscription for you all as well. For $25 a month, you can subscribe to the Patreon and be able to get awesome video content, video missions, and things like that. We also have an audio tier called Hear Your Faith, and that is all audio right now. We're releasing an entire study of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which is 38 parts by John Curry Sr. That is in conjunction with Fiat Ministry Network. So we really would appreciate you guys heading over to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/patchworkheartministry. You head over there and check out our Patreon and be able to connect with our ministry and help support our ministry. It enables us to be able to bring on wonderful guests like John and Jill today. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. And we will be on next. We'll also be on next. This Thursday as well. So this Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m., folks, is the next time we'll be on. But until then, we thank you so much for tuning in to the Sowing Hope podcast. For everybody, I'm Bill Snyder. Keep sowing hope into broken hearts and beating to your Catholic heart. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sowing Hope on Patchwork Heart Radio. For more information about this podcast and our ministries, visit our websites, patchworkheart.org and andesantis.com. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter at PWH Ministry or Andy Santis 2.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.